It is a beautiful Friday from here. I'm very elated to welcome you to another intriguing episode today. The program is still Fiscal Interventions and Economic Growth on Armor Gate Radio Communications. I am Titidola Ogunshono. Last week, we commenced our discussion on a very burning issue titled Unpacking the Implications and Nuances of Trump's Tariff Policy. It was a very engaging, informative, and expository session. I enjoyed myself thoroughly. It was really a very engaging session. It was very informative, expository. We had that session with our distinguished, experienced guest speaker, Mr. Abiodun Abari, who is a geopolitical analyst. Today, we have the honor of bringing him on board again for the concluding episode of this burning global issue. Thank you so much for joining us today, Mr. Abiodun Abari.
Thanks for having me.
Well, we are more excited to be having you in spite of your tight schedule. Well, last episode, like I said, was very engaging. It was very intriguing. It was very informative, expository. We got a lot of feedback from our listeners on what they learned, But today we looked at last week particularly, we looked at the impact, of this Trump's tariff policy on global trade. We look at it on the global stage. But today I want us to come back home, bringing it back to our continent, Africa, and specifically to Nigeria. So the first question I'll be throwing to you is more around, the Nigerian economy. It has been said that the tariffs on Nigeria used to be 14%, and was increased to about 15%, which is understandably one of the cases of least increase. It is also being said by senior Nigerian officers and ministers. We have Minister of Industry, Trade and Investment, Dr. Olajumoke Omoniyi Oduwole MFR. We have them saying that Nigeria is also, exploring other trading, relationship must. As much as they appreciate that relationship with the United States, they're also exploring other options. We know that what statistics have showed us that U.S. exports to Nigeria last year was about $4.38 billion, and while Nigerian export to the U.S. was about $5.78 billion. In fact, that's been the first trade, surplus we had in over a decade, and also we had about maybe a 3.4% GDP growth rate. We saw that. So I want to find out from you as a geopolitical analyst and from the depth and breadth of experience that you have. What will you say these figures in terms of the tariff? What do you say this means for Nigeria, especially as one of the largest economies in Africa? And it is a 2-in-1 question. Or is it good for Nigeria? Or is it an opportunity for Nigeria to reposition herself, as a minimum, list?
Yeah, can you come again?
Okay, I'll take the question again. Okay, now I've given a background to it that Nigeria, the tariff on Nigeria is 14%, it was increased to 15%, and that's one of the cases, the least increase across the globe. And also we know that the last year that there was a first trade surplus that Nigeria has had in decades. The U.S. export to Nigeria was quite lower than what Nigeria export to the U.S. Okay, and we also have the Minister of Industry, Trade and Investment saying that of opinion that they appreciate that the 15% is one of the least among the tariffs imposed on other countries, but they're also going to seek other trading opportunities. So I want to find out from you, what do you say this means for Nigeria, especially as one of the largest economies in Africa? Okay, and do you think do you think this is an opportunity again as one of the largest economy in Africa for Nigeria to position herself, okay, at the best minimum? Or I'm not going to say I don't know your opinion a bit on this matter. Okay, yeah, but because I've seen you also talk about the fact that what we export, oil, fertilizers, and lead is in his in his raw state. Okay, so I want you to talk about what this means for the country.
Yeah, thank you very much. Yes, Nigeria's tariffs have been capped at 15%, and it's not surprising because Nigeria itself is a country that is blessed with a lot of minerals that the United States is in need of. So that is something to consider geopolitically. Okay, and when you talk about all these numbers being bandied and and all that, you have to be able to look at impact on something like GDP per capita, and you don't find it there. Okay, and that's quite significant because if you look at where you have the increase, it's in sectors where you don't have the masses of the people of Nigeria. All right, you have most of our people, in agriculture and agro-allied sector. All right, so what happens if you have that kind of increase, in value-added agricultural and agro-allied products? You understand, and that brings me back to the era of Dr. Aokim Adesina as the Minister of Agriculture in Nigeria. I mean, he implemented the agricultural transformation agenda of the then President Goodluck Jonathan, and it was well received, well acclaimed globally, and we could all see why he was given that appointment, and he elected the president of the African Development Bank, which he will soon be leaving. Okay, so I think if you have policies that have worked, just like the Dr. Mr. Okonjo-Iweala said some time ago when she came to Nigeria, saying that some policies should be party blind, right? That once we have some things that have worked for us as a nation, okay, no matter the party that is in power, no matter the party that is in office, now we should not change such things. All right. So I believe that having that agricultural transformation agenda, work so well in the administration. I could recall the data is there. Hunger was rolled back. We had food prices dropping. All right, and we were exporting value added. Lot of work went into agriculture, funding went into investment, went into agriculture and agri-allied products, and Nigeria was just growing as fast as possible, and just behind China and maybe Qatar then, and we knew what was happening now with our economy then. So I believe that that kind of policy that should not have been any rollback as regards that. I mean, with that, we can involve the masses of our people. All right. I'm not saying it's not desirable to have growth in the energy sector, but the energy sector. How many of our people have skills to be engaged in the energy sector? How many of our people are involved? All right. So that is why when you have growth in those sectors, it does not really move the needle. You understand that across the board. All right. So Nigeria, I mean, itself has to look inward, aside maybe China, Brazil, and other BRICS countries in terms of trading partners, in order to dilute the risk and mitigate the risk. Okay, but as much as possible too, it's quite important to also look into Africa. Talking about intra-African trade, right? Africans must trade, I mean, among one another. I mean, Africans, I mean, the African Continental Free Trade Area is something that should be well supported, well reinforced, to be potent. You understand that? So now with that, Nigeria has as a market, we have the resources. Nigeria has abundant human and natural energy resources. All right. So with adequate investment in, logistics and infrastructure across the continent, you understand, and we having an ambitious, sustainable manufacturing and technological internal subsidies. Yes, we can direct subsidies to manufacturing and technology. All right. We have that. We have the people, to be able to accomplish this. We have the resources. We have the natural resources. We have the energy resources. We have the human resources. You understand? So we will profit a lot. We'll be the number one country to profit from intra-African trade. You understand? Because we have the largest population. You understand? We have we have the markets to exchange. So whatever deal that we make with any country in Africa, will be a win-win. Okay, you understand? Because our market is attractive, okay, for other African countries. All right, so we have the cards, so we'll be able to penetrate other markets and create jobs for our people back home. Increase our productivity, expand the economy to bring in more people, engage more people, and then we can really move the needle.
Thank you so much, Mr. Barry. I know that your position has always been that having growth in the energy sector alone will not it will not move the needle, because of our people and in that sector. And from what you have said, we have some policies that have worked in previous administration, that we should not be party blind. Okay, and I want to take you on what you talked about, the intra-African trade. Okay, because are you suggesting that if Nigeria, want to look at trading partners, we want to look at people, we want to do trading relations with around the globe, are you suggesting that it should be put Nigeria in a better position to trade with other African countries? As vis-a-vis against other continents? Is that what your position is?
Yes, the market is here in Africa. Okay, you have the people. The demand is here. It's just the policies, the product and the policies. All right, because you see that in Africa we mostly export raw materials. You understand? We don't add value. You understand? So that's why I said policy must be aggressively geared towards value adding. You understand what I'm saying? All right. So, and if we just export raw materials and we import finished products, you understand that you are exporting wealth, you are exporting jobs. Exactly. You understand that? And Africa is a poor continent. You understand? And Nigeria is the poverty capital of the world, even though we are not as populous as India. You understand? But India now is the next big thing. It's the next big thing in the world. We are doing so well, and they're ambitious, and you see what is happening, and you see the numbers, the figures, and bringing people out of poverty, and because the policies get towards value adding and investing a lot in technology. You see how they are dominating and the technological space, and it's actually impacting their GDP numbers.
And you have mentioned something, and I hope that policy makers would listen to this episode, that policies must be geared aggressively towards value adding, and you said something that what we've done over a couple of decades is that we keep exporting raw materials, and I like the way you captured it. Once we keep exporting raw materials, we are exporting our wealth, and we are exporting jobs, right? Did I capture that well, Mr. Barry?
Yeah, absolutely.
Because when you captured it, you now keep asking yourself, if you keep, exporting raw materials, other countries would, add value to it and make wealth from it. In fact, there was a particular research I did about a couple of years ago, 8 years ago. Okay, I realized that everything we exported, in what we made from exporting as a continent, okay, was, I think, 1/4 of what just one European country made from finished products. You can see that, that disparity. It was huge and was disheartening. So you are very right. Thank you so much for sharing that insight, Dr. Yeah, it's right to say Dr. Barry. Okay, thank you so much. Now I want us to, go back again deeper into, the Trump's tariff war, looking at even the country itself. Okay, the Trump administration framed tariff as a defense of American jobs and industries. So I want to look at why, the justification for this, tariff war, which the policy, we see that war, but the US, the United States sees that policy. So what would you, they see that as a defense of American jobs and industries, why critics saw them as being politically, charged. Okay, I want to find out from you. Would you say the Trump tariff, was driven more by sound economic policy or by political strategy?
Yeah, but I believe that Mr. Trump is actually weaponizing this tariff stuff, and he actually had really planned for it. Okay, in as much as he's using to achieve economic objectives, like I pointed out last time out, I said he's also achieving other geopolitical objectives, like the pressure he puts India and Brazil under. Those were no economic objectives at all. Okay, Brazil in terms of the Bolsonaro's prosecution, and India in terms of trying to defund Russia. Okay, India now has actually been a major hub, for Russian oil. India is not just buying Russian oil directly, but also reselling Russian oil. So India is really mopping up, some stuff, and so Mr. Trump is actually doing that. But when we talk about the economic objectives, all right, you have low inflation. I think the last figures was 2.7%, all right, and you also have low energy costs, all right, and low energy costs occasioned by the drill baby drill policy of President Trump, trying to seek energy dominance. You understand, and ensuring that there is a supply, enough supply to be able to bring down the price. And you see that the trade deals that is been signing with South Korea, with the EU, all these trade deals have oil deals, right? Deals for patronage of American energy. You understand that, all right? So also when you look at the unemployment too, all right? So also economic objective of achieving low employment in terms of expanding the American economy, bringing in investments, and like I pointed out last time out, investments have been coming in. I mean, from the tech guys, Nvidia, Meta, Apple, Amazon, and of course from abroad. You understand? So these investments are meant to create jobs and expand the economy. All right. Although the last job figures show that the economy needs boosting, because the figures were revised, and that actually caused the sacking of the BLS chair, the woman. So when we look at other economic objectives too, higher growth, higher productivity, and as a result of jobs, all right. And when you talk about prosperity, you want to ensure that costs are low. And when you talk about low energy costs, when energy costs are low, you generally costs come low, okay? Because the energy costs can be inflationary. When there is hike in energy costs, there is always that domino effect, inflation wise, all right? And we also look at government revenue too. Okay, is able to increase government revenue using these tariffs. I think last month's figure was $29 billion. All right, and with this additional revenue, okay, is able to pursue is the tax cuts. The tax cuts that are actually captured in the big beautiful bill that was just passed the house. All right, the spending bill. All right, so I'm also talking about the deficit reduction. All right, so with that, the revenue I'll be able to also pursue goals of tax cuts and reduction in deficit. All right, and if you look at Mr. Trump's approach, because he has also announced ambitious plans to abolish taxes altogether. All right, that's there's not going to be internal revenue, raise all revenue externally through tariffs. Okay, those plans might be over ambitious, but it's already towing that path. So because he feels that government tax should not actually be for government revenue, government should not depend on tax for revenue. Maybe tax should just be some sort of stakeholdership to help citizens to have a sense of stakeholdership. Okay, they are paying tax, they have a stake, not necessarily to get revenue for government. Government should be innovative enough to not stress the citizens, so to speak, and look for ambitious ways, innovative ways, great ways to fund government activities. So by and large, like I said, he has been able to use the tariffs to achieve economic objectives. Okay, but at the same time too, right, he's also weaponizing the tariffs, like in the case of India and Brazil. Economic objectives, talking of low inflation, talking of low employment, talking of higher growth, higher productivity. I'm talking of jobs, and bringing in government revenue to enable tax cuts and reduction in deficits.
Thank you so much, Mr. Abari, for that. Because there's been a lot of argument back and forth on is this more politically motivated. But for what you have explained to us, it shows a very sound economic objective. I would say macroeconomic objective for the U.S. economy, because every government wants to achieve the inflation, and if this is what is achieving, low energy costs, increased trade deals, like the tech guys out there, the media guys are bringing in the business, even all these are also coming in. And also an increase in government revenue just last month, like you quoted, $29 billion is no small feat. And also, yes, of what is said, a reduction in deficit, now increase in growth and productivity. I also like the balanced approach that you have brought on board, that of course it's not outside of geopolitical objectives, like the case of India and Brazil. So if you are going to rate on a scale of 1 to 10, with things that you have explained, I would say it is more of economic reasons than political reasons. Would you agree with that, Mr. Barry?
Yes, definitely. It tilts towards economic objectives more than weaponization. Yes.
Weaponization. Okay. Thank you so much. Well, listeners, I told you that the concluded episode will be more intense, will be more informative, will be more expository. If you're just joining us, we'll be right back after this short break.
Harrogate, founded in 2008 out of a desire to build transgenerational structures for organizations, institutions, and nations. We have worked with large businesses, international development organizations, and public sector ministries and agencies. Harrogate, our uniqueness is that we do not just work for you, we work with you. For example, we do not leave you to the tax after forcing talent, but will help the new hire settle into robust leadership development programs. We are technical experts in advising and supporting institutions on strategy and leadership, artificial intelligence, strategic human resource management, public sector reform, finance, audit and tax, FAT, and strategic communications. We do all this and more out of a desire to transform nations through institutions and organizations. For further inquiries, email contact at thearmorgate.org or call +234 810 999 6666 +234 807 957 4151 and +161 0504 6026 www.thearmorgate.org. Armorgate, building to endure and transforming nations through institutions and organizations.
Thank you for staying tuned. We are back from the commercial break. If you're just joining us, the program is Fiscal Intervention and Economic Growth, and definitely the radio station is the Amorgate Radio Communication. And I remain Titilola Obushano. We are having the concluding episode of what we started last week, and it has been an engaging session. Okay, yes, before we went on break, Mr. Barry has been looking at, the economic benefits of this tariff imposed by the U.S. president, okay, and we could see from what he explained as is more of economic, policies, more of economic objective than being politically motivated. Okay, now I want to, Peter, Mr. Barry, I'll come back to you for the next question. Because in spite of all of this, these beautiful submissions that free and even what data has shown, we also have data showing us that the US steel producers gained in the short term. However, that's where the but is. Farmers face severe losses from retaliation, prompting billions in federal bailout. If you say that the tariff policy, has protected industries, or ultimately cause broader harm to the U.S. economy?
Yes, for the steel industry, and that you had Chinese steel being dumped in the U.S., cheaper Chinese steel and all that, and President Trump had not made any person. He has not pretended about returning the jobs, manufacturing jobs to the United States, and he's also big on national security, especially when you talk about steel. It talks about some aspects of manufacturing that are crucial to national security, that those aspects cannot be outsourced. Right? So it's very important to bring back manufacturing to the United States. Right? So, and that is why the tariff policy on steel is somewhat different. Right, and you have the results in the United States from the steel producers, right? And but Israeli agriculture is protected, generally, especially by the big countries, the wealthy countries. They want to ensure that there is cheap food available for their people, all right? And the United States itself is not an exception, but the food itself, agriculture itself, has to do with standards. And you have to understand that, the standards accepted in the United States, somewhere like Europe, because European standards are much higher when it comes to food, right? And for the United States and all common affairs, the GMOs, the ultra-processed foods and all that, and you have your Sunset Yellow, your Fanta, and so all those things are prohibited in Europe. And you recognize that, recall that the EU trade deal signed with the United States had non-trade barriers, in terms of US pork, right? That is the sanitation certification. The rules for the sanitation certification were actually relaxed in order to enable United States pork farmers meet up with regulatory requirements in Europe. It's not just part of the deal. So that clearly shows that Europe itself has their standard, and but the United States, the standard is lower, when it comes to the agriculture and the kinds of food they produce. All right, so that's also an issue. All right, so but for the steel is a different ball game, and Mr. Trump doesn't want supply chains outside of the United States, and you see that India itself is trying to position itself to replace China, but I don't think Mr. Trump is having any of that. He doesn't plan to replace China's supply chain with India supply chains. I don't think that. You understand what I'm saying? So that is why there is that disparity when you talk about the steel producers and the farmers.
Well, okay, from what you have explained, the reason is not far-fetched. Okay, and I know that he's also aware of all of these implications, but the focus is still on the supply chain being in the States and getting the jobs back to the US. Okay, so still on the agricultural sector, the global agricultural sector, I'll be asking you this final question. Okay, yes, these tariff tensions have affected global commodity prices, and you agree with me? Well, I will let you state if you agree or not that these have impacted African economies, land on exports like oil, like cocoa, and minerals. So, how would you say this tariff work as indirect?
Oh yeah. Thank you very much. The way tariffs work, it's actually the importer that pays the tariff. You understand what I'm saying? It's at which the commodity is coming in. You understand what I'm saying? Because the exporter might decide to absorb the tariff, by reducing the price, by cutting costs, and so on. Because if the goods are coming costlier, okay, so what happens is people will tend to look for cheaper substitutes. You understand that, right? So, and looking for cheaper substitutes, you say that in the long run, those exporters will need to look for other markets where the tariff regime is more convenient for them. All right, so that's just the way it is. So it's either the exporter tries to rationalize and ensure that the tariffs are not passed on to the consumer if it's economic for them, if it makes business sense for them. Okay, if they make that decision, you understand that is the card the United States is playing, right? And if it's for goods that we don't have viable substitutes, I believe that Mr. Trump is actually more careful. So it's not something that is across the board. It's actually selective. So it's just really about the approach, okay, of the exporter. So, and I believe that since these tariffs have not actually caused the inflation in the United States, so the producers are really doing a good job at quote unquote eating the tariffs.
I like the way you captured it accurately, very apt, that the producers is the inflation rate is still quite low. Is that just led to spikes in inflation rate in the United States? Maybe the producers are eating they're bearing the cost. Well, I know that one of the rationale could be because the producers wants to, keep the competitiveness, the level of competitiveness in one of the largest consumer, economy, in the largest consumer economy in the world, the United States. Okay, we've mentioned a whole lot. There have been a lot of submissions. We've touched on various areas from last week. Now we commence this very burning global issue. So today, I only can just say thank you so much. I know that listeners have learned a lot, and they can actually, you have to be a geopolitical analyst or an economist, to understand these basic issues. If we just listen to our discussion from last week, till today. Thank you so much, Mr. Barry, for joining us today. Thank you for your time. Thank you for taking our time, to simplify these issues in a way that anybody can run with it. Thank you so much, Mr. Barry.
It's been my pleasure being here. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Okay, listeners, that's it for today. We should go on and on, but we just have to draw the curtain here. Thank you for listening. For those who missed last week's episode, it was explosive. It was intriguing, it was very engaging, it was packed with a lot of valuable insight. Please just go to our YouTube page. We have that session uploaded there for all the videos that we have. Just subscribe to our YouTube page. It's Amogate. Then you can learn a whole lot from what we've discussed, in this quarter and other quarters for the last 2 years. Remember to join us on this station among the radio communications next Friday at 5 p.m. WAT, and also my colleagues Monday through Thursday same time 5 p.m. WAT. And if you have your consulting needs, your communication needs, your finance needs, just remember to just a call away. And our website is www.theamorgate.org. Are there issues you want us to talk about? Are there questions you have? Is there any feedback from us? Then just email away. The mail is contact@theamorgate.org. Till I find my way to your devices next Friday, 5 p.m. WAT. I remain Titola Obishana saying bye from here. Thank you and God bless.